Hello everybody, it's Sketch Monkey here with a new video for you. I got this DM from Julian A. Kramer and he wanted me to consider some redesigns, and one was the Tesla Model X. I could imagine them doing a more interesting back. Yes, I agree with that. Along the lines of a 250 GTO or an Alpha C. Not sure how I see that. So I might think about that, and maybe we can come up with something. But the thing that got my attention here, Jules, hi, is the second part of this message, which is about the 992, the Porsche 992. To me, the Porsche 992, there's always been something that just bugs me about it. I can't really put my finger on what it is, but it just looks, the rear, we're talking about the rear now. The rear just looks off. It looks like something is, like it can be made better. It could be designed in a better way. And this really got me thinking here. So Julian asks, what really annoys me, or says, what really annoys me is it the three lines that I was talking about in a earlier video about the 992. But it is that they have started moving the lights and the rear end up to the shoulder line from model to model year, which gives the 992 a fat bumblebee ass instead of the iconic frog back. What do you think? Would the 992 look better if the rear end could be brought down from the shoulder line? So bring it down from the shoulder and kind of have it like the old 911s had, that they pretty much had the rear lights down in the corner of the fenders. So what would happen if we took the new Porsche 911 992, took all the graphical elements that are there in the design today, but just adjusted it, moved them around to make them fit for example, a 1970s model? That really got me thinking, and that's what we're going to do today. So here's the point that Julian is making. You can see that clearly on this beautiful image of the evolution over revolution, which is the Porsche 911 way to go. Just minor changes from model to model, not do anything crazy, and just have an slow evolution and not make something drastic and revolutionary when it comes to creating a new 911. So here is the problem that we're talking about. We have look at the rear lights going right here, the height, and then boom, 996, it goes up to shoulder line. You have, this is the shoulder line right here, shoulder line, and you have the light in the same height as the shoulder line in the new ones. But if we go back to the original ones, we have the lights down here, and that is pretty much right above the bumper. So if we were to take that placement, the original placement of the light bar or the rear lights, and add that to a modern Porsche, that would mean that the Porsche rear light would be right here, which would look very odd. But I can't wait to try this and see what it will look like if we take a 992, because I think it could work, because they have the light bar. The light bar has been around since the beginning of the 911. So what we're gonna do specifically is, here we can see another example of the new one and the old 911. Of course, this bumper is becoming bigger and bigger with the years. You can see that the bumper starting here is just a tiny little bar that they have in the rear. Now compare this little thing with this massive bumper in the rear. So the placement is actually the same. The graphics of the rear actually are on the same spots as the original. The things that's changed are the dimension of each part. So for example, the bumper here, you can see it better here. You have a massive bumper right here compared to this tiny bumper up here. Let me make it a color which you can actually see. So here we have the difference, right? Now, what if we take this whole light bar, this thing right here, and just move it down, not all the way down here, but to the center of this, in between. Let's make a compromise. Let's move it down to this point right here. And when we do that, we are going to run into some issues. For example, we're going to have, if we do that, we're going to have a a large area right here, that has to be filled. And I'm gonna add an old school air outlet or ventilation grid that I'm gonna put, a ventilation grill that I'm gonna put on that piece. And also this fender is going to look weird if it doesn't have the light right here. If it doesn't have if we move down the light to this point, we're going to have a larger slope on this rear fender, kind of like the old one here. You can see that it slopes down even more, and here it kind of goes up here and straight. So what I want to do, I want to make it to like the old school and have it go down and meet the rear light in a more pleasing way than if we were to just move around the taillight. So when you do stuff like this, it's easy to Photoshop this, but it's not easy to make it into a good looking design. So that's what we're gonna do in this video. I hope you're going to enjoy it. This is going to be some experimental stuff going on, and let's just jump in and let's get started with this crazy redesign of the Porsche 911 992. Let's retro mod it right now. Now, before we get into the sketching part, just make sure you hit the subscribe button if you haven't already. That way you get notified when new videos are uploaded every single week. Now, first things first, we need to obviously move down the light bar. And I'm gonna do a few changes here and just gonna let the video run and then come in with commentary on what I'm doing at the moment and how we are going to move forward and the issues that we're going to encounter along the way. But for now, just gonna let the video run and come back in a minute or two. So at this point of the sketch, we've cleaned everything up, and we can now start to experiment at what height we want the rear lights or the light bar to be at. I want to have it kind of low, so down here somewhere. So if you think about the original having the rear lights up here, that means that the end of the car is actually ending here. And from this point on, the design starts to it starts to go into the bumper of the design. So if we extend this part right here, if we lower the rear lights to this point, that means that the rest of the car the rest of the roof or the sloping line needs to be extended to that point as well. And that creates some problems, because now we need to extend this part out here too, and this whole side, it needs to be stretched this way, since it's longer and the slope is longer. So we need to extend the whole rear part and bumper of this car. And we also have some leftover things here that needs to be addressed. And another thing to think about is, how do we define this part right here? What's the silhouette going to look like? So these are a few things that comes with when you redesign things like this. If you move one part, you're going to have to kind of move a lot of other parts and redesign them as well. But that's what we're gonna do right now. Alright, so let me jump in right here and talk about what's going on right here now and what we are going to do moving forward. Now, we've moved down the light bar to this point right here. As you can see, we have some issues here that we need to work with. We still need to stretch this part out to kind of fit the rest of the design now. So we want to stretch it out and have it meet the tail lights and then move down into a bumper. That means that these exhausts here too needs to be moved that way. Another thing that I see now when we come this far is that we have an issue right here. So this part, this massive area, we need to put something here. The biggest issue with me when it comes to car design is having massive surfaces and areas where nothing goes on. It just makes for a boring design, and that's what we have here. There are no lines, no design features, nothing. So we need to put something here. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna add a grill that goes something like this, and add the horizontal lines like this, like the old school ones. Another thing we're gonna add to this car is, of course, we are going to change the wheels, turn them into something more retro looking, but still the sides and all of that is going to be very modern. And we're also going to add chrome lists that goes around here and that goes around the window here to kind of have the old school feel back and add those tiny details that makes it look a bit older than it actually is. Not sure about this whole black part right here. I'm probably gonna cut this short right here, have this be body color and keep this light down there, but just narrow it down a little bit and not have the black part go all the way almost out to the rear wheels. So that's what we're gonna do right now, so let's get back to work. One important thing that I wanted to add to this car is this chrome lists and also the wheels. I think the chrome, in addition to the wheels that I'm going to add to this car, that's probably going to have the most impact on how retro you can make a car feel. And also the air outlet or intake at the back, that also adds to the vintage feel, because that's how they used to look back in the day. And same thing with this little chamfer up here by the window. Cars are not manufactured like that today. Everything is flush and leveled. All the surfaces are flush and leveled with each other. But back in the day, they used to have like these deep chamfers and deep indents where the window sat, and also that goes for the rear window as well. So I went with these original Porsche wheels, just make them a little bit bigger, make it look cool, and of course silver works every single time. Just a few minor changes left, and then I'm gonna come back and give you a summary of what went down in this redesign. First of all, let's change the color. Let's put some overlay color on this car and see which one we like the most. Once we're done with that, I'm gonna come back with a summary for you and show you the before and after. Alright, so now we could stop here and say that we're done with this redesign, but there's just one tiny little detail left that I want to do with this to make it look just more right. When we lowered this, the rear bar, the rear lights, some things need to change along with that. And one thing that I want to change as a just final touch is the width of this. Let me show you right here. So I want to reduce this width of the headlight, of the rear lights. I want to cut it until here probably, because if you look at the old Porsches from the 70s and even the 60s, they have kind of almost like a square as a rear light, and this to me is too long since we're using that old design language for this redesign. So what we're gonna do, really simple, just gonna select this whole thing like that, and then copy this into a new layer, shrink it down to the point where we want it to be at, and I kind of have the reference for this length. I'll have the reference, the lower the red reflector down there. As you can see, it's not a light. I don't think that's a light, this part right here, but I want to have a similar length to that thing. Now what we need to do now obviously is to fill in what we just copied, or we want to fill in the body part, which is going to go down here. It's very simple, just using the airbrush to go over it like this. Kind of have as close tone as possible to the original paint, and then delete what we don't need. One more thing after this, and then I'm gonna show you the before and after. Of course, we need to delete these things that are kind of leftovers from the old light, so I want to just fill this in with black. Now, I'm gonna zoom out, and you're gonna probably notice another problem that we need to fix before we can call this done. Let me show you, just finish up some details here first. There we go. So, you can see the Porsche logo here. It's not really in the center. It needs to be moved to the left. It needs to move this way. So I'm gonna do the same thing here. By the way, I really like this light a lot more than the longer one that ended somewhere around here. I think this looks a lot better. So let's just copy the Porsche logo or the Porsche text right here. Copy it, paste, and then just slide it over. Zoom out so we can see exactly when we're going to hit the center of this design. I think it's somewhere around there. That should be good. Let's see the difference. That's the original, and then we moved it that way. I think that looks a lot better. Now we have a duplicate of this reflection here. I don't want to have it exactly the same, so I'm just gonna fill these in and smooth this transition by just painting over it, something like that. And there we go, we are done with this redesign. I'm gonna show you the before and after right now, so you can be the judge of which one you like the most. Me personally, I really like how this turned out. It doesn't look, it takes a while to get used to it, but I think the longer at least for me, the longer I look at it, the better it looks. And usually when I'm not happy with something, it's the opposite way around. So the longer I look at it, the more I dislike it. But this, it takes a while to get used to, but if you have an open mind about how a Porsche 911 could look like, a brand new one and have the original design in mind, I think this looks pretty good. And comparing to the original now, it looks very fat. The original looks very fat in the rear, especially with this big hump here that we were talking about earlier. Let's make it red here. This surface that's the thing I've had issues with the whole time since they launched this. Since the first time I saw it, I knew something is off with it. I didn't know what it was. I just think this is probably too narrow. So if they want to have the rear lights up here, they need to make it some, you know, a little bit more height to it. Add something like this, because right now with the rear lights being this thin, they create this massive surface here that there's nothing going on. I've made a video on this before, I know that, so you can go back and check that. I'm gonna recommend it up here in the corner. But anyway, that's the redesign for the Porsche 911 992. Have it kind of a retro mod, bring back the old styling, and I really like how this turned out. Let me know in the comments below again what you think of this. If you haven't subscribed already, please do so. I'm doing these redesigns every single week, a lot of them per week actually. I'm having so much fun doing these. If you like the video, hit the like button, hit the notification bell if you haven't done that and you're subscribed already. Gonna link my playlist called Car Makeovers. I think it's called Car Makeovers up here in the corner. I hope you have a fantastic day. Thank you so much for checking out this video with me today. I will see you in the next one. Take it easy.